What is shaking, y'all? It is episode 37, Golden Mike Live. It is your boy, Mark Cordone, coming to you live from my cave, my literal spaceship cave. I'm traveling the universe trying to find some amazing people doing extraordinary things. We have our girl, Alison Proffit, today. Alison, this is like the first time, we've been talking for a couple months, but this is like literally the first time you and I have like actually looked each other kind of like in the cyber eye.
It's crazy.
And it's like a totally different kind of experience now because I'm like, oh my God, now I'm seeing like Alison's mannerisms.
That's
and like
right.
when I tell my jokes, she's rolling her eyes at me and stuff a lot.
Like my mother, man.
Yeah, totally. So this one is gonna be a cool one, y'all. I might have to do a little warning today because this one, we don't know where this is gonna go. But what I do know is that we're going to be talking about, and especially Alison, is how to trust when things are falling in place, when they seem like they're falling the fuck apart. And my guests make it up. My guests make up these hooks, and this one already has a curse word in it. So if you got a kid today, this is not a 10 a.m. show. This is a 10 p.m. show. And we're just happen to be doing it at 10 a.m. TC Casey, TC12, TCT, TC12 in the building, baby. Let's dab it up.
Is he in Colorado? Where is he?
Is that what a dab is? Did I do it right, TC Casey? Did I dab it up right? That is awesome. If y'all haven't met me, before we even go into Alison's story, talking about how to trust things that are falling into place when it seems like they're falling apart. My name is Mark Cordone. I'm a positive psychology coach. That means just two simple things: feeling good and living to your full fulfillment. Two things: feeling good and living to your full fulfillment. Alison Proffit,
what's up?
Feeling good? Are you feeling good and living to your full fulfillment today?
Oh my God, I'm so amped up, guys. I'm in love with being in your presence, and I just can't wait to just have this awesome conversation and share more. I know we've been talking for a while, so
yeah, I've been looking forward to having you, sister. TC Casey is in Colorado. Alison knows my style. I like her already. What about me, TC? Do you know my style? Do you like me already? Don't answer that question, TC.
I could educate you some if you wanted as to why maybe people in Colorado are happy. But that's another call.
It's doobie. It's doobie. Straight up doobie. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll carry on.
I'm just kidding.
Not a sandbox I play in, but it's one that I've seen.
Okay, so if y'all are feeling good, it's a Friday. My voice is getting better. I'm feeling really good. I'm hanging with my girl Alison. This is what I love doing. So I'm feeling good and living in my full fulfillment. If y'all are watching live or watching on the replay, if you're feeling good and if you're living in fulfillment right now, give Alison, why are you so presumptuous? Give Alison and I some hearts. Give us some hearts. Give us some hearts.
That's what I want. I want some love. I want some hearts. Boom.
Make it beat. 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 That's right. Give us some hearts, y'all. Give us some hearts. Now, I don't know. Like I've been off the air for a couple days because I've been under the weather. Renee knew I was under the weather, and it was good to see you in New York last week, Renee. But the voice is still gone. I wasn't feeling so great. I wasn't living in full purpose last week. It's okay to have those things. You can have those ups and downs. It's a part of life, right? But you're still alive. Your heart is still beating. If you're not living to your full fulfillment right now, but you're just getting by, that's okay. That's cool. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Oh my God, Alison is making a run to be the new show host here. She knows what to do.
Maybe a co-host.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So the other thing, the final thing, is whether you've been up this week, whether you've been down, whether you've been all around it. That's a part of life. if you're feeling optimistic about your future, if you're feeling optimistic about the future, give me a big old wow face. Give us a big old wow face. Renee, thank you. Thank you. I will gladly take those hugs in October, sister. I'm going to see you again soon. It's great to see y'all in here. Again, my name is Mark Cordone. Alison Proffit. Turn this down or watch it later if you got some kids in the room, because we're talking about how to trust that things are falling into place when they seem to be falling the fuck apart. I want to know how you got to that, Proffit. But before even that, I want to know, what's your story, sister?
Yeah, so my professional background is in human resources. So I'll kind of I'll fast forward through my childhood and all that, because It was pretty fine and fabulous. I've got a great family and everything. And, not much drama there. So I'm totally blessed in that aspect. And I studied human resources. And in my junior year, I don't know, sometime during my college, I was watching television, getting ready to go to school, and the news popped on, and it was the planes flying into the World Trade Center. I don't mean to start in such a down note, but this is going to make it. I share this because I feel like it's the first moment in my life that really formed how I wanted to be as an HR professional, and it really was my why. And my father, I knew that day, was going to be going into work doing some layoffs. He was a middle manager, and he came home that night really, really upset. And obviously, it was a very, very traumatic day for many people, and it was really hard. And his company had made him go forward with doing layoffs that day.
Even after the planes had hit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I lived in Pennsylvania at the time. So there were obviously people that had family members and people close to them that worked up there. And so my dad was really, really affected by this situation. And when I thought about, like, where was the HR people in that situation? Like, shouldn't somebody have said, hey, let's put a pause button on this kind of thing that happened, and say, let's do the layoffs in a month or a week or tomorrow or something. And it really struck me to my core, seeing how my dad was affected by having to go forward and doing this employment-related action. So that was really the foundational of how I wanted to be as an HR person. Always staying connected to the heart and just kind of keeping that kind of compassion in everything that I do, and remembering that people are people, right? And I think that's why a lot of HR professionals get into that aspect of their career. They want to help people. They have fun, you don't want to think of HR as just like the party people, right? But they're the people often that bring that energy into your workplace. Yeah. They're responsible for employee engagement and retention and all of these really important things that really, when you think about it, get to the heart of the matter. It's connecting with people's why, right? And
interesting.
So, did you have a question?
Well, I'm thinking about Toby Flenderson from The Office, and I was like, that's not exactly how I thought about Toby, but yeah, I guess Toby is the party guy in The Office.
That doesn't mean they're effective at it, but it's part of the responsibility, among the other things, right? Comp, benefits. I mean, we could talk about employment law all day long, and of course, those are important things, but guess what's at the center of all of them? People.
Yeah.
It's the people. And so I spent 15 years in HR and really kind of progressed up all the way into my career, up to, I'm going to fast forward all the way to 2016, because I feel like that's really where mine and your journeys probably intersected a little bit. And I was getting to a point where I felt like I was starting to not like people so much. And I thought, what the hell is happening? Why don't I like people? I should love people. It's what I want to do. And I started to feel this dissonance within myself and wanting to identify what that was all about and take some time to really explore it. So I decided to go and pursue the professional coach program that you and I did. And really, I've been inspired by some awesome coaches in my life, and they've created massive shifts for me. And so I thought, maybe I want to go there. Maybe I want to do that. Because I did a lot of coaching in my HR roles, and people said I was good at it. So I was like, let me go there. Because they would come and say, hey, I've had like some breakthroughs from that conversation we had the other day. Thank you so much. So I'm like, oh, let me go where people are recognizing that I'm making an impact on them. And it was something I really loved doing, in addition to like planning the parties and that kind of shit. So in 2000 and early in 2007, I wrapped up my coaching program, and I thought, hey, I'm going to focus on my business. And I had actually ended up getting let go from my job. So I lost my job in early 2017. And I kind of thought, this is it. Like everything's going to fall into place. Like I, didn't want to be working in this job anymore. In our coach program, remember our first weekend, we have to do that visioning exercise. And it's like you get real deep and connect with what your why is and where you want to go. And as I was packing up my boxes after being let go, I had this little voice in my head that was like, hey, well, careful. This is what you wished for, honey. Like,
Yep,
you have
completely.
no reason to be upset about it. In my vision, I had no longer wanted to be I was no longer going to be in Pennsylvania. I was no longer going to be working in that HR job anymore. And I was going to be spending more time in my coaching business. And so the universe was like, well, here you go, honey. Here's what you asked for. Don't complain.
Totally asked for that.
So I did. I spent a little bit of time, and there was trust, right? So that was really the first time that the trust theme for me really was, I was challenged to trust, right? And really surrender to say, well, what do I do now, right? Like, and so I trusted and I said, hey, I'll spend some time in my coaching business. Mm-hmm. So I did then, as you know, when you're starting a business, that never jumps off right away. And you have all kinds of doubts and things like that. But I was meeting some great people and spending time with entrepreneurs. And I've never really spent time with entrepreneurs, but they were so freaking passionate about what they were doing. I was like, I want that. I want to be with those people. And so I initially was like, hey, I'm going to just like go and be with entrepreneurs and coach those people. And so my husband and I, in April of last year, had an opportunity to move to California. And we had found this opportunity through a website called workaway.info. I'm sharing that with you because it's a totally cool thing. You can go and like see all these places around the world of people that need help with yard work and like shit around their house. Okay. And they basically, the person that we were going to live with, they needed help caring for their 2 horses and their 2 dogs and their property. They traveled a lot for their job. So we were like, sweet. Like we saw the pictures on the website. We were like, yeah, like look at this. It's all like this beautifully landscaped swimming pool and a hot tub and a sauna and like these mountains in Santa Monica. And it was like, this is going to be amazing. So we literally, like with 3 weeks notice, my husband quit his job. We sold almost all of our shit, traded both our cars in, got 1 car, packed it all up, shipped a couple boxes, and just drove across country to live with this strange lady. And we never like cared for horses or anything. We're not like horse people. Like I don't look like a horse person. Not that that means anything, but right. Like when I was like 13 or something, I went to Girl Scout horse camp, but that was the extent of it. So we get there, and really our responsibilities were like shoveling horse shit multiple times every day, caring for the dogs, feeding them, and just doing like yard work and things like that. And so we were supposed to be out there for 4 months, and we were like, this is a cool low-cost way for us to relocate without having to have rent and make any big commitment or anything. And I was hoping to be able to build a network out there in California, because it's like California life coaches, right? Like everybody kind of looks at that environment and it's like, it's a thing, and everybody spends money doing that kind of stuff. So I really was interested in connecting with innovative companies and maybe doing some internal HR coaching. And so that really wasn't happening. And the lady was kind of crazy. One of the things, like the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was the one day she asked us, she was like, so are you guys both taking a shower every day? We're like, well, we're shoveling horse shit for 3 hours, so yes. And she's like, well, I don't have the hard data yet, but I'm really worried about my water bill going up. So maybe you guys could just jump in the pool. And we were like, I'm sorry, what? Like, I wish I could have like recorded my husband's reaction in that moment because he was like, "This fucking lady, who does she think she is?" Like, we're taking like directions from her. Like, there was a lot of expectations that weren't met, of course, and shame on us.
So did you guys actually like bathe in the pool?
Fuck no.
Okay.
We were like, well, we're sorry you feel that way. We're going to shower every day because we were also sharing a full-size bed. And so, like, you're sharing your bed with your spouse, like shoveling horse shit for 3 days. I'm not going to jump in this little tiny shitty bed. And even if I wasn't shoveling horse shit, like, so again, there was a lot of need. I know, it's hilarious. I could write a book from that 6 weeks we spent in California because we only ended up staying for 6 weeks.
So that was only 6 weeks. Okay.
6 weeks, yeah. And there's a book in there because that lady, crazy things. And, hang on 1 second. I forgot to plug my battery in. Hey, Mark, hold down the mic. 1 second.
I'll hold down the fort. So this is where we're at, y'all. We got Alison, who really became super interested in HR from the days that she was kind of sort of watching her dad and 9/11 hit, and sort of the way that he was impacted by that. Really fast forward to a couple of years ago, and the passion that she had for, or the passion that you had, Alison, for the sort of the idea of being that HR connector, engager, was sort of waning, and you jumped into a coaching program to sort of boost you up. And like many people who go through this coaching program, when you ask for what it is that you want out of your life, it actually manifests. And you kind of ask for the trifecta. You want out of your location, you want out of your job, and you want to be doing something else. And you kind of got out of your location, you got out of your job, you're doing something else. You go to this equinophile, this horse lover, right? And I wouldn't say to your dismay, like when you were telling me at first, you were like, yeah, shoveling shit is not the problem. It's more so the okay, I've got small quarters with a person that I love, and I see him 24/7, and we need to shower. We need some basic human things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My favorite time of California, my husband and I love this story. So she would never turn on the air conditioner, and it was April, May, so it wasn't always really hot, but it was hot during the day. Sure. So the one day we were off on the weekends, and we drove to the Calabasas Public Library, and we were going to go walk around the library. So first we went to the farmer's market, got all these like great fruits and pastries and things like that. We were going to go to the library and hang out and just like sit in the air conditioner and read. And so instead what we ended up doing is we parked in the parking lot. We put like our like shade stuff up on our windshield. We tapped into the Wi-Fi network and watched Bob's Burgers, and ate like all of our stuff from the farmer's market. And that's what we did for 3 fucking hours on our day off in California. And it was the best time ever.
That sounds amazing. Bob's Burgers on like freaking hacked Wi-Fi. Oh, that's like romance times 50 right there.
We could just live in our car, right? Like, that's the point we were at.
Well, actually, that's what I wanted to ask you is like, what was your sort of affect right there? Like, what was like with you and your husband? And we've never talked about this. When you were going through those 6 weeks, right? Shoveling shit, being asked to take to bathe in, being asked to not shower in the shower, like jump in a pool, right? What was y'all's affect? Were you guys like, what have we just done? Was it like, or was it like, this is awesome, like we got each other? And
being a coach and having gone through that program, I had a lot of excitement and this is an adventure, but then I also had a lot of guilt and shame going on because I mean, my husband, that's not something he would have done. I was like kind of blown away that he was like, yeah, let's pack all our shit up and move to California and shovel horse.
Sure.
But I mean, it was sold as a really great idea, right? And there was a lot that didn't match up, right? Like the hot tub didn't work, the sauna was broken, like the things that we were like, yeah, that's going to be awesome. Like we couldn't even use those things. So
it sounds like everything that had to do with water didn't work except the pool.
Oh, but the pool, Mark, it was always covered and it was surrounded by trees. So like to use the pool was an hour-long process to make it. So it was like, fuck you, lady.
Just
like
get under, like scurry under the cover. Like just do a quick dip. God. Why do you gotta make it so hard?
You know, there was a lot of like shame and guilt that I was feeling around my husband and like, what did I get us into? And, you know, he's like, well, why don't you get a job? And I'm like, well, doing HR in California is like, it's like every HR person's nightmare unless they're already in California and know all the stuff. Because there's a lot of different laws and regulations and there's like separate certifications for people that do HR in California. And I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm not working in California as an HR person. Maybe I'll go be a coach, but that takes time. And so, and we had saved up money, right? Like, don't feel bad for us. Like, we made this choice, right? And we keep reminding ourselves, like, we chose this and we can make another choice. That doesn't mean that we were like hating each other in the moment, right? Like, I mean, there was times where I was like, I can't be with this man anymore. Like, he is so negative. And I'm like, well, okay, he has every right to be negative because we're shoveling horse shit. Like, and part of the other thing too, like about the shower thing is like, part of our chores was to like water all her plants around her property. So we had to like drag this hose around. Like, it was like, lady, you are so rude. I told you there's a book just in California, just about the water situation. I get it. There's drought and all that stuff. But it was like, if you're worried about water, why are we watering these dead non-native plants that you're desperate to keep alive, even though you're not even here? It's like,
and just remember, if you want some sort of adventure like this, they're all over workaway.info.
Yeah.
Remember that website up.
It's funny too, because my husband was like, oh, we should go and do one like in Brazil or Costa Rica. And I'm like, no, like, no, that would not have worked. That would have like visas and like flying. And I was like, it was bad enough driving across country. Like we literally drove across 4 states because we Airbnb'd during our drive. We're totally off topic. I love this so much. Like
I love this.
We're just kind of weaving down the path of our journey. We stayed in an Airbnb in Indianapolis because I was like, let's do it on the cheap. And that one was fine. But then we got to one in Kansas City, which was our next day of driving. And the lady didn't represent that there was like 5 other rooms rented out. Everybody shared a bathroom. She had 3 little chihuahuas there. And we were like, listen, all we need to do is take a shower, right? We didn't know that showering was going to be such an issue during all we needed to do was take a shower, lay our head down, and sleep so that we could do the next leg of our trip. So I was like, I'm going to go like shower off. We're going to go get dinner. I like go and like take all my stuff in the bathroom, set it all out, right? You know, like you do when you go to a place and you're getting ready to take a shower. Took all my clothes off, right? Like, and opened the shower curtain, and it was full of like pubic hair and rust, and it was disgusting. And I like was like, oh my God, what did I get us into? Now this is even before California, right? Closed the curtain, put all my stuff on, grabbed my things, went back in the room, and I said, John, get up off the bed. We're leaving. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, I can't be in this place any longer. We just need to get back on the road. And I drove that whole day. So he's like, well, I haven't driven yet. So let's go to Colorado. Yeah. So that's what we did. We just continued on driving. So we drove from Indianapolis to Colorado all in one stretch. And,
the motivational power of pubic hair and rust.
We stayed in a Fairfield Inn and Suites right across the border of Colorado, and it was the best hotel room experience ever in our life. And we ended up actually up until that point, because we had a lot of really great hotel stays because we couldn't, like towards the end of California on the weekend, like we were like, let's just go get a Holiday Inn room because we just can't, like, you know, I mean, we can't sleep overnight in the library parking lot. So.
Sure. Well, let's fast forward, right? So you're 6 weeks deep into the equine experience in California, right? Yeah. You know, you're being asked to do some chores that you didn't think that that are in your zone of genius. Yeah. Right? You know, you're getting asked to do some things where you're like, oh, I just want it. Like a value for you is, you know, showering, you know, like, you know, you want to be showered.
we love the animals, right? Like that was the saving grace. I mean, being around horses requires that you're really in tune with your emotions and what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
And so that's a really great therapeutic aspect of our day.
Absolutely.
Being able to spend the time with those two horses and those two dogs. And I mean, we'll never forget that, right? Like that was a really, really awesome thing. And in fact, a memory on, the Facebook memories that pop up, a memory popped up and it was Sadie, the one dog. I'll post it after the live, but it was just of her. And, seeing that, I was like, yeah, like there was some great things from California. And again, trust was something that came in more in the end. And we decided, you know what, we stayed in Colorado with a friend of mine on our cross-country journey. And so we were like, let's go back there. And I used to work in Colorado. I traveled here for work a number of years prior where I had a large client group and some of them were out here in the Denver metro area. So we were like, well, let's try there. And so we had researched a couple of areas. We landed in the Boulder area and I was looking for HR jobs and my husband was looking for work and we took another chance. We rented a room from somebody we found on Craigslist. And she was not crazy. In fact, she was actually so worried about making sure that she didn't like recreate that experience for us. So she was like really, really friendly and just a really lovely person. And so I felt really great about that. And I ended up, I got a job opportunity in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And that's right across the border from Colorado. And we were like, okay, well, if you get that job, we'll move up to Fort Collins. Because we didn't really put roots down until we figured out where I would get my HR job. And so we, explored that area a lot. We knew we wanted to live there if circumstances led us there. And so I had gotten this job opportunity. It was amazing. And when we were literally like, so I got the job offer. They wanted me to start like a week and a half in after the offer. And so we were like, all right, well, let's quit the temporary positions that we were working because we were working through an agency. We had actually secured an apartment because we were tired of living in a 10 by 10 room with another roommate. As grown-ups, it's a hard thing to do. And so we had already secured another apartment down in the Boulder area. And when this job came up, we were like, all right, let's give notice there. We could quit our temp jobs on the spot because we were like, we need to go and find housing and move and like buy furniture because we don't have anything.
Right.
And so we were like, talk about trust, right? Like we were trusting that this was it and it was going to work out.
Sure.
And so we found an apartment in Fort Collins. We were on our way to sign a lease, and then the HR person the recruiter had reached out, and she said, "Oh, I heard you're moving to Fort Collins. Like, didn't you know this job was contingent on you living in Cheyenne?" And we were like, "Oh, well, I don't know about Wyoming. If I want to live there, I'll work there." But
right.
And so, I said to my husband, I was like, well, I don't want you to resent me. Like, I was so worried about him and, I didn't want to carry like guilt and shame with me and all this stuff. And so he was like, well, fuck it. Let's just drive up the highway. It's just, let's just continue on north. So we had given notice at this other place that we were on our way to sign the lease with and said, hey, thanks, but no thanks, which sucked because it was like a beautiful rental townhome and we would have bought it if it was on the market. And so we get up to Cheyenne, and there's another book that could happen from this next week and a half of my life. Actually, it was only a week. It wasn't even a week and a half. Because the interview for the Wyoming position, there were 3 candidates all being interviewed on the same day. It was an 11-person panel interview process. And they called me after that day of interviews and offered me the position. And the recruiter was like, all 11 people picked you. I was like, whoa, like, that's cool. So yeah, I'm going to move to Cheyenne for an opportunity like that. It was like a head of HR position, which was cool because it would have been the highest level position that I had in terms of having that ability to have full autonomy and control in terms of the HR aspect. And I really wanted, and they wanted somebody that had a lot of coaching background and somebody that was a heartfelt leader. So I was like, hey, yeah, like, bring that up to me, right? Like I could do that. Like, this is going to be a perfect job. And it was a great opportunity. So we get up to Cheyenne, we start looking at apartments. The very first apartment we went to, it actually was a house. It wasn't an apartment. It was a rental house. And the realtor met us outside and he was like, I can't show this to you. And we're like, well, why not? And he's like, I can't show this place to you. And we're like, what? It's fine. It's fine. We're fine. Like, just show it to us. We can clean it, whatever. You open the door and the smell of mouse urine and shit like wafted and hit you right in the face. And we were like, what
the smell of mouse urine.
Have you ever smelled that smell? It's just like, or cat pee, right? Like that.
I'm assuming it's like really ammonia smelling.
Oh my God, Mark, it was horrible. It was summer, right? This was in August, so it was like that smell in a tiny little house, just baking all day long. So fucking gross. So we were like, oh my God, is this what's in store, right? So we looked at 9 other apartments, and only one of them did we feel would be reasonably okay for us to live in. Like we were like, maybe we should go back to California and not shower. Like literally, we were like, leave California. So
not showering isn't as bad as mouse urine.
And
it well off.
I'll spare the details of that, but we ended up. We almost bought a house. Like we went the next day with the realtor, looked at houses, found a great townhome, got approved for a mortgage. We were like literally ready to like start going through that process. So that's like 4 days after the job offer, because we were like, we can't rent here because it's garbage. Like, sorry, Cheyenne, Wyoming, but the rental market there is horrible. And by our standards, right? Perspective is everything. And so I went in and met with that company because in my interview 4 days earlier, they were like, one of the first projects we want you to do is to help focus on creating programs to attract out-of-state talent to work at our company. I was like, well, guess what? That's what I am. That's what I am. And my experience is not so good. You're not providing much detail or assistance. So I went in and I was like, could we have 6 months to make the transition, or could we live in Fort Collins where we knew we liked, and like I could live in Wyoming in the winter months because they were worried about the commute during the winter. Mm-hmm. Or could you give us some money to help us buy a house?
Sure.
Like as a signing bonus in lieu of getting the bonus for the like 2018 thing. They're like, yeah, like these are great options. And I said, listen, like you even can say no to them because we're resilient and we will make it happen, because that's how we roll. We shoveled shit in California, and we can make it happen, right? Like after that, it was like anything is possible. So they were like, that's great. Like we'll see you on Monday, and like we can't wait to have you here. We'll get back to you about these things. We had one more rental we were going to look at in the same townhome development. Looked at that, found a place, got approved. We were going to sign the lease the next day, and like 2 hours, and I let the company know, and then 2 hours later, they rescinded the offer.
Okay. And
so in speaking with the HR person, she was like, I think that they were a little bit spooked that like you wouldn't stay. And like, she was like, it sounds like, because she was like, well, that conversation sounds like it went great. She's like, nothing sounds crazy to me. And so, it kind of also felt like the universe again, right? Saying like, this is not where you belong, right? And of course my husband was upset. And the very first phone call I made was to our previous landlord, if you will, where we were renting a room, to say like, hey, like, can we move back in? And she had already found a place. She already found a person. Mm-hmm. So we were jobless and homeless because they were putting us up in a hotel, and they were like, we'll pay for one more night. And so my trust was like, going away very quickly, because I was like, what are we going to do? Right? How do you get a place to live when you don't have a job? Like all these things. Right. And I was like, but we're going to be fine. Like that, like, look at California. Like we were fine, and, it was really just important for us to keep connecting back with our heart. Like, why are we doing this? Like, what was the purpose of all this? It was to like have an adventure, go out and like do things that are exciting to us. And we had really gotten away from that because we were so focused on getting a job. And so we moved to Fort Collins. I tried to be a restaurant manager for a little bit, which was a new, exciting adventure. And I was part of an opening team, and that was really cool. And it was really, really fucking hard. Like, I mean, I'd never worked a job where you work till 4 a.m, and sometimes had to be in at 6 a.m. to open. And, but it was so fun, Mark. Like I got to talk to people all day. Like that was a big part of my job, was talking to guests and helping our employees feel like excited and supported. And I loved so many parts of that job, even though it was really hard. And I had kind of fallen into a place where I was feeling really lost because I was like, there's a lot of parts of this that don't really align with what is important to me, right? Like we were at the point where we were cutting labor a lot, so we were just like sending people home, and like the things that happen in the restaurant world. And so I ended up not being in that job anymore earlier this year. And I felt like I had gotten away from myself in a lot of ways, even though there were things in that job that I liked. It was because I was forcing myself to see the things that were making me happy in that role. And I think that, with positive psychology, like there's things in your brain that like you can do, right? Like you can trick it to say like, like view the growth, view the things that are important in this situation to where you're trying to get to. And so I had really done that, but literally like 2 days after I was no longer in that job, I fell back to myself. And the people that had known me before I started that job were like, I don't know who you were or where you were. My husband was like, not being in that job anymore is the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I'm like, why didn't you like fucking tell me that like 3 months ago too?
Sure.
So,
now, I mean, in retrospect, do you feel like you lost yourself in that job? Or do you feel like it unlocked a new part of you?
I think it unlocked a new part of me. I mean, there was like some dark depression stuff, right? Like not to go into all that, but I've never have had those kinds of mental health challenges that I had. And literally like not being in that job anymore, it was like that. It was totally situational depression, but it was dark depression, right? Like for my husband to say like not being there anymore is like the best thing that's ever happened to you. Like, that that's real.
Sure.
But you're right, it did unlock something for me. And what it unlocked was as I was going, and I guess actually it's important to talk about that because as I was going through that, I was being very, very open with our HR person. And she was a lovely person doing the best that she could, right? That's what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing the best that they can. And I felt that despite the fact that I lost that job, it was like, how about these other things that I was sharing with you along the way, right? And how about like what about like those aspects of me as a human being, right? Like I get you have a business to run, but like your people are your business. And they ended up not backfilling my position. And I'm not smearing them at all, right? Like they're doing what they need to do, right? Like I tell people to go there. It's a great restaurant. They've got great bars. Like I still go there, right? Like because it's awesome. And I was a part of it. Like it was being built when I joined the team. So it's like, I will forever be a part of that, which is amazing. And so, but it did unlock something for me. And I think what it unlocked was because I was trying to kind of run away from HR, kind of coming back to my roots, right? I had been trying to run away from HR because after I lost that job in Wyoming, I was like, okay, universe, I hear you. Like, I'm listening, right? Like, what are you trying to say? Maybe HR isn't where I belong. But my heart keeps coming back to it. And, when I had started my coaching business, I was like, I'm going to go work with entrepreneurs and business leaders. But my heart keeps coming back to HR. And I think the reason for that is that's a big part of my who and my why, right? Like I feel like in the corporate world, which not everybody can go out and be an entrepreneur, right? Corporations exist. They're part of our economy. They build the things that we live in. They make the things that we use, right? Like they're important and they're never going to go away. And the HR function is so critical in so many ways. Not just to make sure that companies are following laws or we're paying them right or any of those things, but there's this aspect of like the employee engagement and attracting talent and things like that. But what I think is happening in a lot of places is these HR people are becoming disengaged themselves. And they're becoming frustrated by these things that they are, having to do because it's their job, but they've lost their why. They're not able to be authentic and live in their why. And that was really what led me to explore coaching, right? So I had to get real curious. And I think that job did unlock that for me. It was like, oh my God, like, well, duh, Allison, like go and be that inspiration for these people and help them unlock, like get in touch with that again and become empowered to decide like, what do they want to do next? Like, how can they like tap back into that joy and happiness of why they're in HR, right? For me, it was bringing compassion into the workplace as a result of what my father experienced with the 9/11 and having to conduct layoffs, and reconnecting with that compassion. I used to say, this is terrible, I shouldn't admit this, but I used to say that, like, there's so many bad HR people out there, like Toby from The Office, right? Like
Toby is
I used to say that, like, there's a lot of HR people out there that give HR a bad name. And I think that that's true, right? There's bad apples everywhere. There's bad coaches out there, right? Like, we know this. And, but I think they're just doing the best that they can. And, like, who's paying attention to the HR people, right? A lot of times, especially in smaller or medium-sized companies, they tend to be more standalone, and they might report to the senior leadership, and maybe there's nobody above them. Or maybe that HR person above them has lost themselves and is disconnected with their compassion and, with their own hearts. And so where is that HR person supposed to go to have their needs paid attention to have somebody engage them, to have somebody get to their why, to their core? And I feel like, that's a really big mission. But how amazing would it be if we could get more of that happening in these organizations, and having these HR people really kind of help be the life force to bring that excitement and that positivity back into it. Because you and I both know that positive energy, like, once you have a little bit of it, it's like, everybody's like, yeah, like, I want to dance too, right? Like, they're like, oh yeah, my shoulders are gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna dance. I think that it's natural, right? Energy attracts like energy, and it's hard for it not to be a ripple effect. And so, so
let me ask you.
Excited.
Let me ask you
that
this.
I landed there. Yeah.
So how would you have somebody reconnect with their joy and passion without having to lose their job 3 times, change their address 5 times?
I don't
you know what I mean?
that.
Like, have a crazy, like, Asian redhead buddy that we get to text every now and then. But, like, what would be ways that you can get someone reconnected without having to go through sort of the long hero's journey that you went through?
Yeah. I think it's so important to reconnect and, like, just really be curious about, like, well, why did I decide this is what I want to do?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that there's some people that never really truly connected with what they want to do. And so maybe the answer is that they're not in the job they're in anymore. Maybe they've never really been connected to their heart, right? They decided to become a lawyer because that's what their dad did, and there was a lot of money in it. Or they decided to be a finance person because they're good with numbers, but they hate it, right? And, I posted something, I don't remember if it was on Facebook, but it was something that Gary Vee said. It was like, if you're living for weekends, vacations, like your shit's not together or something like that, right?
Gary Vee.
Yeah, I know. But I think that really just talking to people about it, right? People don't talk about this. It's like this dark little secret, and I think that's really true in the HR world, because we're supposed to be the ambassadors for it.
Sure.
And so,
and definitely the way that I'm hearing you talk about, folks in HR, is that in many ways, some organizations are dependent on an HR person to be that powerhouse, sort of that person that fuels sort of positive contagion.
Yes.
In the organization. And what's funny is that, like, as a person who's never worked in HR, I have never seen HR people that way, and that's sort of my own limiting beliefs, right? But then I think about it and I'm like, there's a couple people who I know that are in HR, and they're completely contagious in terms of their positivity. And I can see them walking into a room and people lighting up as a result of it. And then I think about, like, seeing this person lose I haven't seen it, but just, like, imagining it, like seeing this person kind of lose that flame, and then kind of come into an organization, and I'm like, wow, who is the go-to person here?
Yeah.
and I could see really well-being of the organization and the people within it being affected as a result.
Yeah,
you know, I
totally.
could see, like almost like a cascade effect, people not staying as long,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there is much more of, just from this conversation, there is much more of a role that an HR person plays, not only in the sort of the laws and the stuff that has to do with organizational dynamics, and even further than a person who champions the people who work for the organization, but as a person who really brings forward like organizational values and portrays it in a way that is like, okay, this all makes sense. What this organization writes on paper, I see this person embodying it.
Yeah.
And they're flourishing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing too is within the HR world, and this is not a complaint at all, we know this getting into it, but it's kind of a lonely place sometimes. Because we're also people. So the people that we have to like have conversations with about policy or behavior or performance, like sometimes we find ourselves in those situations. And I think that's what this last year and a half for me was all about. It was like, oh, being on the other side of the table, here's what that feels like, right?
Yeah, sure.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not a great person or can't perform well. I mean, I think that it's humbling, right? And it's important to walk in the shoes of other people, like the job at the restaurant management position. I'd never been a line manager. I remember that our HR person sent an email out, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I've sent emails like this, and now I know what it feels like. I wanted to go in there and be like, listen, honey, we're doing 20 other things, and we don't got time to come to this meeting that you didn't even talk to us about to coordinate. Like, and I did. I sent her an email about it, not all like that, right?
Did you have hands on the hips and fingers going crazy?
I was like, I can't believe her. Do you believe her? Right? And I was like, oh my God, that's me. Like I totally had been that person sending that email out. So I think, my goal is really to open other people's eyes to that and give them perspective into the HR world, because it's kind of hush hush secret, right? Like it's like, they're like the bastions of ethics and compliance, and we're also people too, and we're struggling with some of these things. Sometimes we don't agree with policies that we're required to help enforce and roll out.
Sure.
And that's a part of it, but it doesn't mean that like they're a bad person. So give your HR people some love, right?
Give your HR people some love. Give your HR people some love. Or if you hate your HR person, give them this. Give them this.
Oh, you can do that, but be serious about what it might be like to be in their shoes, because that's what our job is to every day think about what's it like to be in their shoes. And sometimes we get jaded because of nobody's paying attention to us in the way that we're expected to pay attention to the employees. So
I love when I get closed-minded, you get open-minded, and you're like, dude, be empathetic, bro. Show some emotional intelligence, idiot.
Isn't that
I love how we're, except for HR people. Well, actually, the thing that I think about is this, I actually in my PhD program studied organizational behavior quite deep, and I've never thought about things this way for an HR person, but in terms of the most powerful person that I've ever seen in an organization, if we think about an organization being set up like the King's Court, the most powerful person I've ever seen is the fool. The role the fool or the court jester plays.
Right.
Because the court jester gets to say whatever they want to the king without the repercussions of being like executed. Like if the knight, or the first mate said something to the king and was making fun of the king, they'd be executed, right? The fool also gets to walk amongst the people. They get to walk amongst the people and gather information, talk about the king, what's going right, what's going wrong, entertain.
Yeah.
Right. Entertain, exactly. So when the sort of the psyche of the kingdom is down, the fool gets to bring it back up. And also the fool has the responsibility in war and outside of, or in war and in peace, to tell the king and be the feedback loop of be like, look, the people are not happy right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
we need to find more food,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually see from this conversation this is in with most deference to the position of an HR manager, like the HR manager playing the role of the fool in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Not only are they up there with the king's court, but they do get to walk amongst the people. And that is one of the most powerful, influential positions that you can play. And that's part of the reason why I came into the coaching business. That's why my hair is red and I act like a fool, because I literally want to be a fool in your king's court. But the fact that HR folks already have a system that they can go into is amazing. I don't know if that makes any sense, Allison.
It totally makes sense. I love that analogy, and I never thought of it, but it is really a powerful position where you are amongst the people and amongst the leaders. And even when you bring what the people say up to the leaders, you have to continue going down to the people and keeping them engaged and keeping them excited. And then, you either have two paths that you can take then as that joker or jester HR person is continue to be really excited and trust, right? Like trust comes back, right? Trust and believe that like there will be change, right? Change takes time and that you can help be a catalyst of it. Or your heart could get hardened and then you just kind of become jaded and speak out two sides of your mouth. Because that's what I hear a lot about HR people is that they speak out both sides of their mouth. And it's hard not to do that, right? Because that's somewhat part of the role, but there's a method to it, right? There's usually a little pebble of hope buried inside the HR person's heart that like they're really going to make a difference, right? And I believe that that's true. Like I wouldn't continue to come back to HR, right? Like I'm excited. I'm actually in the process of going through some interviews for an HR position, and I'm totally jazzed about it because I still believe that like, I bring that value. Like I know that like a company that really values its people and wants to grow and wants to keep its people engaged and excited about what they're doing, like they know that they have to be connected with the why. Like why are they doing what they're doing? Is it because they love being a part of something bigger than themselves? And I think I've realized that like, companies always say like, oh, connect people to your missions. Like they mean it, but like it's like a surface level thing. And for me, it's like, you got to get deep. Like you got to connect like really deep with these people and get them to be so excited about it. Even on the days where they feel like their trust is wavering in the situation. And so, I mean, back to trusting.
Especially on the days when their trust is wavering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back to trusting that things are falling into place when they feel like they're falling the fuck apart. Like, I mean, all that I've personally been through in the last year and a half is coloring who I am and how I'm showing up in my coaching, other HR people and other individuals and in organizations. And, one of my core values is authenticity. And it's like living your truth and feeling all the feels and being okay with that. And, helping managers understand what that looks like. And guiding them along the way in an internal HR role is so important instead of just jumping to this is a performance issue, let's write it up.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to throw this out there because, we've been laughing the whole time about like shoveling shit and mouse piss and like this pubic hair in rusty shower. Like you are ridiculous. You are ridiculous. And right after the president of IPAC came and spoke, amazing. I applaud you. So like you keeping it real. I love it. But no, I mean we're laughing about all of this now, but you're talking like as you're speaking about things, you also brought up the idea of shame and guilt because and as I'm thinking about your story, empathizing with the HR person, and the sort of the humanity you have in terms of like, frick, like, I really thought that this was going to be the one, and so there's probably a lot more tears that go in the backstory than you care to mention.
I should have invested in Kleenex as one of the options.
But we're not here to sensationalize stuff like that. That's part of your journey, right? You know what I mean? But also, if going through what you did go through, would you go through it again, knowing where you are now?
I would.
Why?
I would. When I started our coaching program, I remember feeling like I didn't have enough of a story, right? Mm-hmm. There are people that have overcome some major, major things in their life. Mm-hmm. Addiction, illness, major loss, and all these different things. And so, not that I'm saying that you need to do those things to become a coach, but it allowed me to like fully step into myself and say like, oh, like even though your hardships, so to speak, aren't those, like they're just as important. They're just as impactful. And I mean, dude, I got to like live in California for 6 weeks without paying rent. I got to go on this amazing cross-country adventure with my husband. I was part of an opening team of a restaurant that had 2 bars, rooftop bar with like music, and I got to see Trombone Shorty like perform live, like in our little venue. Like, how freaking cool is that, right? Like,
pretty damn.
Pretty damn cool. And there's all these experiences that I've had in the last year and a half that I'm not sure that I would have chosen the path, but had I chosen a different path, like I probably wouldn't have had the same experiences. And I think that, duality is an important thing in life, right? When you have those dark times and those hard situations, they make those brighter situations even brighter. I mean, we have literally, my husband and I have checked off so much on our list. When we were back in Pennsylvania, probably a couple years ago, we talked about we always wanted to live somewhere that had a view with a fireplace and an open floor plan concept, a great balcony, and a hot tub. And where we live has all those things. It's like, oh my God, like we'd like pinch ourselves. We're like, this is so cool. And
now, does the hot tub work? And do you take showers?
The hot tub works, and we share with other people because it's an apartment complex, but hardly anybody is there. Right. And so sometimes we have to pinch ourselves and it's like, wow, like imagine had we not taken the path that we went, like none of this would have happened. And now we live in Loveland, Colorado, and the town is called Loveland. I mean,
that's right.
How cool is that? Right. I mean, my word for 2017 was epic. I pick a year, a word of the year. So my word was epic, and my word for 2018 is abundance. And that really came out of a place of trust, because after the year 2017 happened, it was the most epic fucking year I've ever had in my life. And so I think that power of intention, that year going the way it did, really has forced me to surrender to trust. And so I just, I feel so much abundance in my life right now. And I know more awesome stuff is coming. And I'm hopeful to create even more sort of ripple effect within the HR field, which I think will affect humanity in a different, bigger way. And I'm just like totally amped about creating a safe place for those people to come and be true and be real and be able to feel safe to say, you know what, like I'm having a really hard time supporting this XYZ thing that my company wants me to. And I want to like bring them into that like circle of positivity and hope, and get them to feel like and trust. Why is it that they were pulled and compelled to go into that field? Because there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
And so tapping back into that, I think is where we really begin to flourish and thrive in life. And it's not easy. Like, it's not like I like arrived at this overnight, like, oh, let me flip this light switch, right? Like, I put this prop here, right, just for our I'm gonna flip the switch.
No, what I really do love about your journey is that it literally can be like each of the it's almost like 3 parts I see of your journey, right? Like it's like this trilogy of sorts, right? Those are like the great ones, right? The ones that have like this trilogy of the hero, right? And it's very much a story arc that has an external thing. You're kind of like humble origins, shoveling shit, right? like, but then you're kind of like the last thing you're doing is you're kind of at this sort of sexy, startup with like you're interacting with people, you're getting to meet people, and I mean, 4 o'clock in the morning with a 6 o'clock opening bell, like that's some pretty hardcore hours, right? And that's a totally different type of journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but a lot of it had to do with sort of an internal thing that you can look at, right? Like, when you're shoveling shit, there's also the internal journey of like, how much longer do I want to shovel shit? Literally, how much do I want to put myself in this dark situation? And when do I stand up for myself? Well, I can shovel the shit, but when it comes to removing my like last layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just the need for shelter to keep me clean, well, that's where I know I need to move on to the next thing. Here's a dream job, but also environmental cues. Like I learned to stand up for myself in the last thing. So I'm not going to move. I'm going to negotiate, and I'm going to give hard, these sort of hard things that I need. That really is this sort of like person who's beginning to become empowered. And then like also at the same time, like, okay, they just took the offer off the table. Well, did I really want that? That's really like the hero's journey. Like, would Alison, like, you have really been happy in this place where, you're living in one state, you're not necessarily environmentally happy. Like that's a totally different journey. And then the third one is this journey of like true authenticity, right? This is why I need to be your book publisher. I'm the shit. But no, like the journey.
Writing, but my book is up here, and I'm like, oh, that would be awesome.
No, the sort of that journey of true authenticity. Like, all of a sudden you're doing some things. You're a part of a startup, but it wasn't necessarily the startup in that environment. Like, you really love the idea of engaging with people, but in the realm of HR, right? And
that's what I was doing.
Yeah, and so when you're talking about getting HR rock stars amped, it makes total sense that it all comes back to these very real lived experiences that you went through, and like helping people understand that you don't necessarily need to do what I did in order to come to an appreciation of where I am now.
Right. Yeah. Learn from me. Right. Like
totally.
Let's track that. And I know that we've talked about that before. Like that's the role of the coach, right? Is to help fast track people to have these breakthroughs without having to go through a year and a half.
That's one of the most awesome things in terms of the role of the coach is that you can shorten, what was that, 2015, 2016 to now, right? So about,
2016 to now, yeah.
To now, you can shorten that for some people to like a 3-month journey, right? Where totally. It is uncomfortable, and they are going to their capacity in terms of their beliefs. And then once they shatter those limiting beliefs, it's time to let them go and flourish, right? A couple things. Sarah Macy?
Yes, I do.
Sarah Macy is tuning in and out, wants to say hi to you.
What's up, Sarah? Sarah helped me with my resume while I was living in California. If you need a resume.
Oh, crap. It's like, it's like this is your life, Alison. Kendra is tuning in, waving. Hi, Kendra. She looks like she's happily in love in that photo. Look at the way she's staring into that man's eyes.
Love is beautiful. Love.
So, Alison, how do we work with you now? How can we keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook. My company's name is Amazing Journey Coaching, so that's the name of my website. So you can hit me up there. It is not reflective of the HR piece. It's really more general for the entrepreneurs and leaders. But I mean, I'll always love my HR peeps. So you guys hit me up. I'm working on some programs around creating that space for HR people. And it will be a safe space so that other people who aren't in HR can't be there and see the things that they might be saying because it may make us look unsavory, right? And I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn and all those things. So if you go to my website, if you go on my Facebook page, I also have a Amazing Journey Facebook page too. So you can hit me up, just drop me a message, comment here on the video. I just love connecting with people and having just real, true conversations. And if I inspired anybody, then my job today is done.
Well, I do have to tell you, I've seen a couple of your posts, and I'm seeing the way that people are responding to your posts right now, Alison. You're on to something. You really, really are on to something. And I cannot wait to come back and interview you to see how this manifests for you. Because I think the idea of abundance is something that is not only, like the obvious thing, the money, right? But in terms of what you have to give, it is pouring out right now. I can see it. And I see by the way that people are responding, this is going to be a really cool, safe space where HR people who seem to have become automatons, seemingly, or feel like they're becoming automatons, can become humans again and reconnect. I think you're the perfect person to be doing this. Like, I think I counted the curse words. I think you are in the running for the curse word bomb dropper of the year. With the
people too, we curse. By the way,
with the first annual Goldies coming up, the Golden Mike Awards, you might be in the front running of this. So let's keep in touch with you. Is there a date that you're going to start your program?
Oh, dang! Why you got to do that to me?
Because I want you to commit.
Yeah, let's say middle of June. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but middle of June. My birthday is June 16th, and that was the date actually that I started my coaching journey of realizing that that's what I wanted to do. So I feel like that's a great milestone to shoot for. And I'm playing around with the name Heart of the Matter for my and helping HR people get back to their own hearts so that they can really kind of be at the heart of their organization and be the joker on both sides. Oh, shit, man. Add one more to the count.
Boom. Program launches June 16th. You want to get in touch with Alison at amazingjourneycoaching.com. It's in the show notes right now. Click on it or send this to someone you know who might be in a similar position. If you've never been a part of a beta or a new program launch before, this is something you want to be a part of. Programs, beta launches are so cool because you get to come in and influence the influencer on how future programs go. It never gets to be like that again. So come in, create this, co-create this with Alison. Heart of the Matter is the program. And I love what you are doing, Alison. Let's keep in touch. Alison, I think you might know this part of the Golden Mike. This is the part where the Golden Mike descends from the ceiling. Accept the Golden Mike. And it rests in front of you, Alison. As the Golden Mike comes to a stop, I just want to thank you, on behalf of everyone who's been watching, the Kendras, the Sarahs, Renees, TCs, everyone who's going to be watching in the future, everyone who you're going to be impacting with this program, Heart of the Matter, that debuts on June 16th. Thank you for taking time to be on the show and committing to this. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank you for being my friend. Yeah, you've been a powerful part of my journey, so appreciate it.
It's a big deal to have you on, and so I'm good. It's awesome to see you here. Thank you for telling your story. And as you know, the Golden Mike, when it goes live, translates to every single language across the world for 2 minutes. Can you believe that you and I are doing this right now, homie?
I know, it's so cool.
It's real, isn't it?
2 days ago, so I'm still twitching from that.
Well, I'm twitching because you're about to go, right? So you've had quite an amazing journey. and the world is listening when I flip the switch. And Alison Proffit, you are now on the Golden Mic Live.
So, beautiful people that are out there listening, I want you to think back to that little boy or that little girl that's deep inside of your heart and reconnect with them. Forget about the noise in your life, all the things in the media, the things going on at work. Just get back in touch with that person. And think about who that authentic little being is and where they want you to go. And get back to that. And whether that's by surrounding yourself with amazing people that might be on a similar path as you, or if it's going inside and really reconnecting with yourself, that journey is so powerful. And there's going to be rocky roads. There's going to be detours. There might be some shit you got to shovel through. And that's okay. Trust that that is something that is going to help you grow and to get back to your roots. And if nothing else, you'll gain resilience from it and you'll gain perspective from it. And if you're just able to surrender and to trust that you know deep in your heart where you want to go and why you want to do it, connect with that, and you're going to show up in the world in a new and bright way, and people are going to come to you and want to be a part of that journey and understand how they can get some of that too. And so that's the heart of the matter. Let's just connect with our hearts and share that with the world.
No, you dropped my golden mic. That's a joke. No. Okay, this is good because I've got the weekend to fix it now.
Alison, awesome. Thank you.
Alison, absolutely amazing. For those of you who are watching, the replay, I want you to like Alison. I want you to love Alison. I want you to want some more of Alison. I want you to share this video out. I am shutting the golden mic off for the weekend. Wow face, I'm shutting the golden mic off for the weekend so I can spend some time with some family. I might need to shovel some shit myself. We'll see. Get some pubic hair out of the my rusty tub, just in case I have Alison and her husband over. I didn't know that was some sort of weird social thing, but I'm gonna clean that up for my guests.
Oh my God, this can't be that.
I can't wait to look at the transcripts of this. We totally need to put like captions on this, and like I totally need to boost this podcast out. Like this is gonna be fun.
It will never be Molly's though. I mean that one tops it all.
Yes, absolutely. Mouse piss. So if you've learned anything, don't move into a mouse piss smelling place, everybody. It's just safe. My name is Mark Cordone. This is Alison Proffit. You know how to get in touch with her. Please send this one out. Alison, thank you again. My final question for everybody before I shut the mic off for the weekend is this. If you're feeling good and you're functioning in your full fulfillment, what is your, don't distract me. What is your responsibility to the greater good? What is your responsibility? Again, this is the Golden Mic Live. We're coming back live on Monday. Alison, thank you so much. Let's send this one out. Take care. Have a great weekend. See ya.
Bye.